Good evening, QSO Today Virtual Ham Expo participants. This is Greg Lane and for KGL. I'm going to do a talk entitled APRS Pico Balloon Launch by Rank Amateur. And the Rank Amateur would be yours truly. Here I am in my native habitat here in Northwest Florida. And my ham history started when I was a teen in 1967. I took a 25-year break from ham radio starting in 1983. And I came to my senses and got relicensed in 2008. And now I'm trying to make up for lost time in my retirement. I like to do amateur radio outdoors in Northwest Florida, Southeast Alabama, including rapid deployment amateur radio, radar, parts on the air, POTA, and winter and ARRL field days. I'm most comfortable with CW and sideband. I also host a Zoom meeting, which is Beginners Academy. Our club does that for new and returning hams on Zoom. So why Pico Balloons? Well, I just wanted to let you know that there's an exciting facet of amateur radio called high altitude balloons. And I'm going to specifically talk about Pico balloons. Imagine your $5 balloon flying 5 miles high while the payload is beginning its journey across the globe. And a drama will unfold on how long and where your balloon will go. You can share this with your family and friends, and they'll enjoy it too. Pico balloons are also an excellent idea for STEM and experimenters. Well, I'm going to say a bit about Bill Brown, WBBELK. Several years ago, I saw a short video clip of Bill Brown and his balloon payload on an amateur logic podcast. Bill was talking about his Skytracker balloon payload from the floor of the Huntsville Ham Fest. I found out later that Bill Brown is known as the grandfather of amateur radio ballooning, also known as the master of amateur radio ballooning. Bill has pursued HABs for most of his adult life. Bill's story is documented in a great episode of QSO Today. It's episode 250. I later attended Bill's forum talk at the Huntsville Ham Fest and saw him prepare and launch a Pico balloon with a Skytracker payload from the hotel parking lot. I took the next step by purchasing a Skytracker from Bill. The cost is very reasonable. It's about $150. It even comes with a party style balloon. So exactly what are Pico balloons? Well, they look like party balloons. And they're much smaller than the weather type balloons used for near space launches. Near space balloons intentionally burst at extreme altitudes. The payload, which can be several pounds, descends on a parachute, and the chase team usually recovers the payload. Well, Pico balloons don't go as high, but move in the air currents for hundreds or thousands of miles. A Pico balloon is underinflated, so it will not burst as the air pressure decreases. Some Pico balloons have circumnavigated the globe several times. You're unlikely to retrieve a Pico balloon payload, but Bill says it's happened. Well, let's talk about the Skytracker payload. The purpose of the Skytracker is to report the balloon's position and altitude. However, to fly under a Pico balloon, it must be very light. Bill's Skytracker weighs about 12 grams. The Skytracker is solar powered, so the weight of a battery can be avoided. Because it's solar powered, reports will stop overnight. Bill's engineering is superb in implementing these functions at a weigh-in of 12 grams. Kudos to Bill. Well, his payload has two options, one being APRS and the others being Whisper. The Skytracker can beacon using either one. You'll make a choice when you purchase a Skytracker, and both provide location tracking of the balloon from many ground stations worldwide. APRS is on the 2-meter band, works well over land and near the coast. However, over the open ocean, there won't be any stations in range. On the other hand, Whisper using HF 20 meters can be heard all over the world, even when it's over the sea. Bill recommends the APRS version for beginners because the antenna is shorter, and which makes the launch less challenging. That's the one I got. Bill pre-programmed my Skytracker with N4KGL-11 as the APRS SSID. The Skytracker beacons on the APRS frequency of 144.390 over the US. It also adjusts the frequency for other parts of the world, and it will stop beaconing if it's over a country that does not allow it, like the UK or North Korea. Well, let's talk about lifting gas. Pico balloons can use hydrogen or helium. Hydrogen is cheaper, achieves better altitude, but it's flammable. As a rank amateur, I chose helium. Getting high quality helium can be an issue on short notice, as I found out. So I ended up using a party balloon tank from Walmart. The party tank the helium is not as pure as you would get from a gas supplier. So it won't go as high, but nevertheless, I got an excellent flight. For my launch site, I wanted to launch from the center of the country, and it just happened that we had a trip pulling a travel trailer out to Kansas. We are also going to stop in Oklahoma, and that would be a good opportunity to launch the Pico balloon from the center of the country, so it will get plenty of APRS hits. And my assumption was it was going to move toward the Atlantic Ocean with the jet stream. So we had to put off this trip for a year. So the Skytracker sat in a box in the closet. And then we got underway for the trip in July 2021. And the first leg started in Florida and ended in Kansas. I did several parks on the air activations at state parks along the way. Our campsite in Kansas was at a state park near Lawrence. And I was very unsure I could get the balloon prepped and launched. For me, it was like doing a first CW contact. I contacted Keith Kaiser, also having been interviewed on QSO today, WA0TJT. He's a near space enthusiast living near Kansas City. Well, anyway, I thought I could mooch off Keith. I thought he would have helium at his house, but this was not the case. Buying helium requires some lead time, and it helps to have an account with a gas supplier. So I had a predicament. My way out was to buy a party balloon tank from Walmart, as you see here. The gas is not as pure as a tank from a gas supplier, but nevertheless, it worked out well for me. Keith was very encouraging over the phone, and we wanted to meet up for the launch, but our schedules didn't match. Time ran out, and so I did not launch for Kansas. Our next leg of the trip was to Oklahoma. Where we can talk about Bill's launch site and weather conditions, recommendations. First, you're going to need a sheltered place to prep the balloon. Second, you need enough clear space to launch, about the size of a football field. That's so you don't hang your balloon in a tree or power line. And third, the weather should be favorable. Try to launch on a calm day under 5 to 10 knots and less than 50% overcast skies. Well, at our campsite at Keystone State Park near Tulsa, the weather forecast didn't look all that favorable, but one morning, the forecast was exactly what's shown on the screen, which was perfect. And that was the morning of July 20th. So we were go for launch. You still need to prepare your balloon, and that's the part I worried about most. The balloon must have the proper amount of gas to avoid bursting at max altitude, but enough gas to lift the payload. Of course, Bill provided instructions. The goal was to inflate the balloon enough to lift the weight of everything below the balloon, plus 2.7 to 3.0 grams of free lift. That's about a penny's worth. I inserted the supplied fill tube into the neck of the balloon and gave it some gas from the party balloon tank. I then used a baggie provided with that had the necessary test weight. I added and removed some helium to get the balloon neutrally buoyant with the test weight and the fill tube. Then I attached the payload to the balloon. I threaded the upper part of the antenna, which is a guitar string, through the support string. And then I verified that the balloon would gently rise. All this was done inside our camper. The prep was easier than I thought. but was it going to work? Frankly, I envisioned the balloon falling into the lake. That's where I planned to launch it, catching on a tree, or bursting as it ascended. The moment of truth was here. I took the balloon outside for a 9:45 launch.
Hello, this is Greg, N4KGL, amateur radio operator. I'm at Keystone State Park in Oklahoma, and I've prepared a balloon payload developed by Bill Brown-WBBELK, and we're using party balloon helium in the balloon, which is not as good as the pure helium, but it's going to work for us today. And this is the payload that Bill developed with the, it does APRS, automatic position reporting system, which can be picked up by stations in the United States and actually around the world. So in theory, this balloon is going to go to above 20,000 feet and float around, and if we're in luck, it will go many miles toward the Atlantic, and who knows what after that. That is, if we've done everything correctly. So we followed Bill's instructions, and we have excellent weather, and I believe we're within tolerances for doing the launch. So we're going to go down to the lake with the wind to our back and do the launch. Here's our launch point. The APRS ID for this balloon is N4KGL-11. So you'll be able to track it on APRS.fi or any of the other online APRS maps. All right. So we'll give this a little slack here. Wind is over the lake, and hopefully it doesn't get wet. So here we go. It is doing just, it's beautiful up and away balloon here, and it's definitely airborne. It'll have to be above those trees, but I don't think that's going to be a problem. So,
all right, well, once the balloon was launched, and I lost sight of it, I relied on two things. First, I had a APRS HT by Kenwood that was reporting on it, and also it was being picked up by iGates in the APRS infrastructure. So you really begin to appreciate APRS and what Bob Berninga did because it's just the ticket for supporting these balloon launches. And you can see on the screen, I've got a screenshot of one of the reports on APRS.fi. You can also see reports on APRSdirect.com, and habhub.org has a specialized site that shows all balloons currently in flight worldwide. This is a graph of the ascent of the balloon. It took 2 hours to get to pretty much the cruising altitude of about 27,000 feet. It did go as high as 30,000 feet, but pretty much it stuck in that range, 27 to 30 for its entire flight. And this was the fun part. We didn't know where it was going. We were just getting reports about every 2 minutes. And the reports would stop at sunset because there wasn't enough power to power the payload. But instead of going toward the Atlantic Ocean, the balloon headed southwest over Texas, entered Mexico, and disappeared. And of course, I thought that was the last I would hear from the balloon. Then the next morning, it reappeared in Mexico and boomeranged back over Texas and into Oklahoma. I thought it was going to actually come back to the launch site, but then it took a southeast turn and made quick time to Louisiana, and eventually it went over the Gulf of Mexico, and it of course disappeared, but then it retraced its path and returned to Louisiana, went over Texas and New Mexico, and entered Colorado. And the last report I got was from Colorado as the sun was setting on the 10th day. So all along this process, my friends and I kept track of it, and we would think it was be gone, and then it would come back. And our luck held out for 10 days. And everything was good. It was cruising at 28,000 feet, had no sign of problems, but it didn't appear the next morning. And I doubt we'll ever know its fate, but it kept my friends and me guessing and very entertained. So what's next? I've obtained a second Skytracker from Bill, and the photo on the left is what came in the box, the Skytracker itself, the Mylar balloon, the instructions, a nozzle of sorts, and a weight. So where I launch it is really an open question, but I plan to launch another payload. I may switch to a higher performance balloon, which will get more altitude from Scientific Balloon Solutions, and that's shown over on the right. I don't have one yet, but if you want to increase your chances of making that around the world flight, probably this SBS 13 balloon is the right choice. I could also do my homework and see if I can get pure helium. And that should boost the flight to around 38,000 feet. The higher you are, the less likely a storm is going to bring your tracker down. And perhaps I'll get lucky and have one of those around the globe flights. They're not uncommon. So in closing, my Pico balloon launch from Oklahoma on July 20th, 2021 was a success.
the Skytracker payload developed by Bill Brown, WB8ELK, worked perfectly. I got APRS reports for 10 days while it cruised around 28,000 feet. The flight gave my friends and me lots of entertainment, and boy, this was fun. A note that Bill Brown, WBAELK, has fostered a community of students, experimenters, and enthusiasts doing HAB projects. And they're taking this idea to higher levels, making it more interesting. And the good news is for us rank amateurs or beginners that the Skytracker payload makes the entry to the world of high altitude balloons open to almost everyone. And you can give it a try yourself. Even a rank amateur can do it. Well, with that, we're done, and we'll move over to the Zoom room to take questions and answers. Thank you.